Somewhat of a lengthy agenda today, but not too bad. So we will get started and get through it. Starting first with our Sergeant at Arms staff. We want to thank them for their help. Brian Devon, Jake Dorman, Sherry Hendrick, Linda Matthews, and Hal Roche. Thank you all. And good to see you back. How are you doing? You're kicking field goals?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Every day.
Welcome back. We have a few pages here this week, and with us today, I want to introduce them and thank them for coming. Chesney Gibson from Grover, Senator Alexander, Grayson Harmon from APEC. Grayson? Oh, how are you, my friend? I didn't see him standing back there. He's sponsored by me. Thank you. Connor Lang from Raleigh, Senator Chaudry. How are you? Luke Pennebaker, Mooresville, Senator Sari. Sawyer. Lucas Pass from Winston-Salem, Senator Lowe. How are you? And Keith Tillett II from Fayetteville, sponsored by Senator Applewhite. Keith, that's Outer Banks' name. Right, Johnny? Outer Banks name. So welcome. Hope you all have a wonderful week here and learn a lot. We'll start with the top of the agenda, please. Senate Bill 747, Elections Law Changes. Senator Newton? Senator Heiss? No, Senator Daniel. Okay. Any of the above? You have the floor, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Senate. As we've said before, this bill is Senate Bill 747. It's the jumbo jet of election integrity. So we would like to, I'll just go down through the highlights of the provisions. So this bill would require the State Board of Elections and County Boards of Elections to retain and preserve voted ballots and other types of records for 22 months after an election, mirroring federal law. Prohibits the state board and county boards from accepting private monetary donations for the purposes of administering elections or employing individuals on a temporary basis, but does allow in-kind donations of voting space, like a church or a fire department. It makes changes to the observer laws and allows observers serving less than 4 hours to serve an additional 4 hours on election day at any voting place in the same county. It allows chief judges and judges at a precinct to leave the voting place prior to the completion of all duties for an election and to allocate precinct officials for early voting sites, other than the office of the county board, in the same manner as at precincts on election day. Provides that voters using the same-day registration process during early voting must vote a provisional ballot unless they provide certain documentation. Provides that if an appeal to a voter challenge is made by the state board, that appeal is to the Superior Court of the county in which the challenge originated. Provides that writing qualification requirements do not apply to special district elections or nonpartisan elections for boards of education. Provides that if the time for voting is extended by a court order in one or more counties, that time for voting is extended in all counties by an equal amount of time, and also would apply to the receipt of absentee ballots. Requires precinct officials to maintain a log of anyone who is not a near relative of the voter who goes into the voter booth to assist the voter in marking that voter's ballot. Requires the type of identification submitted by certain first-time voters to be listed on the voter rolls and available to the public. Provides a process for county boards to issue certificates of elections for municipal offices when the municipality lies within more than one county. Requires the state board to submit an annual report on any revisions to a voter's voter history after an election has been certified. Makes modifications to the electoral college process for electing president and vice president of the United States. It amends the law regarding mail-in absentee ballots to require the following: except for military and overseas ballots, all completed applications and marked absentee ballots must be returned to the county board by 7:30 p.m. on the day of the election unless that time is extended by some form of an order, making this consistent with 30 other states. All absentee ballots received prior to election day will be counted on election day, and absentee ballots received on election day may be counted at a county board meeting between election day and the day of canvass. Each witness witnessing an absentee ballot must print his or her name on the application. Applications for absentee ballots will also be retained for 22 months. A process for curing deficiencies in absentee ballots is in the bill. The county boards will use signature verification software to check the signatures of executed absentee ballots, and also two-factor authentication for executed absentee ballots. These are processes that will have to be developed over time. Makes it a Class 1 misdemeanor to impersonate a precinct official or for anyone other than the state board or county board to affix or print a barcode on any absentee ballot request form. It would require the SBI to investigate election-related crimes. Requires a person to vote in an election. Requires a person. So it requires a knowledge requirement if a person who is ineligible to vote because of a felony votes in an election, they would have to knowingly do that. Creates a process for voter list maintenance, removal of non-citizens reported as disqualified from jury duty. So those, if someone requested removal from a jury because of non-citizenship, that would be reported to the boards of elections. Requires list maintenance effort to be conducted on a weekly basis. Requires notices regarding photo ID, the new photo ID requirement. It directs the boards of election to give that information to the voters in mailings and also post it at their voting location. And finally, requires a study on replacing the statewide voter registration system. So that's a high-level view of the bill, and I would answer any questions.
Thank you, members of the committee. We have questions, please? Seeing none, do we have anyone in the audience that cares to speak? We have two people that are signed up, I believe, for 747. Joanne Embry. Good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you. I'm with North Carolina Election Integrity Team, and in the cause of transparency and trust, I would like to support poll observers as described in H772 be added. The law currently has many activities that poll observers cannot perform. It has one general sentence about what they can do, so I would ask that more specifics be given about what poll observers can do. I would support cast vote records, which is H770, be included so that citizens are able to compare election results to machine tapes. In addition, the State Board of Elections changed their manual in May of 2023, and it now indicates that list maintenance may not be conducted based on lists submitted by third parties. So, example, 2 years ago, I submitted lists that appeared to have errors in the voter registration rolls to Wake County and Johnston County, and they were very appreciative to receive those. And at this point, I would no longer be able to do that. And then I would also support the definition of private funds that is used in H641, which is a broader definition because the organizations that have been providing funds have been changing their terminology and models and funding models. It's way beyond donations. So we would like it to be broad so that we can catch all the various means that the organizations are using. Thank you.
Thank you. Brianna Garcia.
Hello, my name is Brianna Garcia. I'm the policy organizer with El Pueblo. I wanted to direct your attention to Section 30E regarding non-citizens, point 3, which states, the State Board and County Board of Elections shall retain the electronic records for 4 years and may destroy the records after that. This could cause for concern. It's possible that non-citizens' personal information could be accessed and used maliciously in the light of the recent rise in hate crimes against non-citizens that we have seen. In 2017, the Republican-appointed board director, Kim Strach, examined dozens of cases using data from DHS and the DMV, where she found the complexities of immigration law and citizenship status led to a high proportion of flagged individuals who were citizens due to the intricate verification process. There should be a requirement to delete these public records as soon as the citizenship has been verified in order to protect people's public safety and privacy. This bill would have a disastrous impact on our democracy, and I urge you to vote against this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion from the committee? Seeing none, we have a motion for a favorable report from Senator Paul Newton, Senate Bill 747, election law changes. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Senate Bill 749, no partisan advantage in elections. Senator Paul Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, Senate Bill 749 is properly entitled No Partisan Advantage in Elections. That's exactly what we try to accomplish with this bill, nothing more, nothing less. It revises the structure of the State Board of Elections and the county boards of election. The new composition of the State Board would incentivize compromise between the members instead of giving members an opening to ram through partisan changes to elections processes. No party could force any elections policy change without the consent of the other. The voters of North Carolina should have faith in the members of the Board of Elections that they can work together to conduct free and fair elections without any perception of bias. When I was in law school, we talked about avoiding even the appearance of impropriety, and based on what we saw happen in this state in 2020, we've gone way beyond the appearance of impropriety when it comes to partisanship in the administration of our elections, and we're just trying to even the playing field here. And additionally, it provides an avenue for North Carolinians who prefer not to register with a party to be appointed to the board. So non-affiliated voters, unaffiliated voters would now have a chance to participate in the Board of Elections and on local county boards. This proposal increases the number of board members from 5 to 8 and provides appointments from the majority and minority parties of the General Assembly, similar to the FEC, similar to the City of Raleigh. And it, again, forces folks to compromise across partisan lines. President Pro Tem of the Senate, Speaker of the House, the Senate Minority Leader, the House Minority Leader would each be tasked with appointing 2 members to the board. As with current law, the state party chairs of the 2 political parties with the largest number of registered voters would still submit names for consideration, but the leaders of the General Assembly would not be required to appoint from those lists. At the county board level, the 4 General Assembly leaders would each appoint 1 member to the local boards. The State Board of Elections would remain in charge of hiring the executive director, but if for any reason the position is not filled within 30 days of the new board members being appointed, the General Assembly would have the opportunity to appoint the executive director. Same process for the state chair of the State Board of Elections. And as we look to the 2023 elections, 2024 elections, it's important for the General Assembly to come together to ensure that our elections administration works on behalf of voters, not one political party. And that's our goal here.
Thank you, Senator Newton. Members of the committee, questions or comments? Does anyone in the public care to speak? Seeing none, we have a motion from Senator Daniel for a favorable report on Senate Bill 749, no partisan advantage in election. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
House Bill 605, School Threat Assessment Team. Representative Torbett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome back.
Wonderful to be here, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for hearing this bill. Thank you. Basically, what the threat assessment teams do, it requires threat assessment teams in public school units, require all public school units to participate in school safety exercises and programs, and encourages private schools to participate in school safety exercises and programs. Also requires local boards of education to establish peer-to-peer support programs. Basically, it focuses on 2 key parts. One is communications and observations. Give you a little example, a brief summary. Little Johnny is an AEB student. All of a sudden, the teacher notices that little Johnny becomes a CD, even fluctuating towards an F student. Chances are something's going on with little Johnny, but if that teacher doesn't say anything, then the baseball coach that little Johnny plays on notices that he's not coming to practice, he's not playing up to his potential. He knows that something's going on with little Johnny. And by the way, the SRO notices little Johnny's maybe changing who he hangs out with. There's something going on in the school that he notices. Well, if these people don't talk about that, what's going on with little Johnny, the little Johnny continues just to go the way he's going. But if all these folks are simply paying attention and they come together to communicate, then what this will do is it will effectively help little Johnny. And it's been proven that once implemented and once it's action oriented and doing a good job in schools, that it will reduce the chances of a student from wishing to harm himself and or others, which is the goal of our school safety event. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Representative Corbett. Do we have questions or comments from the committee? Does anyone in the audience care to speak? Seeing none, we have a motion from Senator Todd Johnson for a favorable report on House Bill 605, School Threat Assessment Team. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. And opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chairman Ray.
Thank you, sir. House Bill 34, Protect Those Who Serve and Protect That. Representative Hastings. Welcome, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members, and all the staff people who help us get to this point. I'll be very brief, sir. So this changes the definition of certain emergency vehicles and creates crime for discharging certain barreled weapons, et cetera, into those unoccupied vehicles. It also creates a criminal offense for using laser devices and, for instance, pointing those at service animal or other emergency personnel. That those lasers can severely damage their eyes and their eyesight. And then Senator Britt offered up a substantial amendment in an earlier committee that has to do with certain assaults on public service personnel. And we do have a new incarceration note too, Mr. Chairman. So thank you.
Members of the committee, questions or comment? Does anyone in the audience care to speak? Seeing none, we have a motion from Senator Perry for a favorable report on House Bill 34, Protect Those Who Serve and Protect That. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Who's running this on the floor, sir?
Senator Britt, is my understanding. Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, House Bill 193, AOC, court changes and amendment expulsion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These are various changes requested by both the Administrative Office of the Courts and the Conference of District Attorneys. Section 1 allows money judgments to start being paid with credit cards or debit cards. Welcome to the 21st century. Section 2 and 3 make technical changes to the Notary Act and to I forgot what else it is, but something else is technical correctness. Section 4 repeals an annual report that the Joint Legislative Oversight Committee gets on the implementation of the Notice of Waiver of Costs to Affected Government Entities. Section 5 repeals the bond requirement for clerks of courts or the clerk of appeals or superior courts or for magistrates. Section 6 allows the Conference of DA to employ resource officers eligible to practice across the state, gives them the same rights as the assistant district attorneys do about confidentiality, privilege, and being able to access information. It also allows the Conference of DAs to designate personnel to lobby the legislature, and this is effective in July of this year. The next section provides training for district court judges specializing in juvenile cases, ACEs, and trauma-informed training. Section 8 the next section allows the clerk of court to assign the duty of passing on applications for jury excuses to the judicial support staff, the administrators and the judicial administrators, judicial clerks, so that they can pass or not pass on exceptions to jury service, and then allows it to be reviewed by the clerk of superior court. Section 9 requires bonds taken or renewed by the Board of Commissioners, filed with the clerk of court, and then certified by the chairman of the county commissioners. It would require the county commissioners to register with the Register of Deeds and file with the clerk of superior court the official bond for sheriffs. And the bond must be taken on before the first Monday of December after the election. Section 10 allows the chief district court judge to delegate authority to a chief magistrate to temporarily assign magistrates to out-of-county duty under exigent circumstances, to designate magistrates to accept waivers of counsel and appoint counsel in non-capital cases, to conduct preliminary investigation into written complaints against other magistrates, but not make written findings or take disciplinary action. Section 11 clarifies that the exemption from the prohibition of collection of Social Security numbers applies to all court records, not just those that are kept in the files, but you don't get to have anything in court, social security records. Clarify the Register of Deeds are not covered under a statute that requires businesses suffering a breach of confidential information to disclose the breach to affected individuals. It also clarifies they're not liable for claims of damages that result from the release of some confidential information. Section 12 adds a new section to Rule 5 allowing service by the court to be made by a notice that identifies the document filed and directs the recipient to an internet location where the document's available. It can provide service through the court's electronic, all of this goes back to the e-filing and being able to file things on a Sunday night. It provides that each member of the State Bar must provide a mailing address, phone number, and email address to the Secretary Treasurer of the State Bar to be the member's contact information, and that's effective in August of 2023. Section 13 requires a commitment examiner that filing a petition for an involuntary commitment must have an affidavit implemented through the electronic system and approved by the Director of AOC. It requires the findings of a physician, eligible psychologist, or commitment examiner in order for the clerk to declare that someone is incompetent. And then the last section, Senator Britt added revising expunction eligibility, and I'll be happy to let him give you any greater details, but he says you've already passed this once.
Thank you. Senator Brett, do you care to expound on the expungement?
Yeah, I just need about 15 or 20 minutes at the podium. No, sir, it's the same language that we passed out of this chamber earlier this session.
Very good. Thank
Worked on
you.
it with everybody.
Thank you. Members of the committee, Senator Chaudry.
Make a motion for favorable report.
Thank you. Further questions or comment? Does anyone in the audience care to speak? Seeing none, we have a motion from Senator Chaudry for favorable report on House Bill 193, AOC court changes and amendment expulsion. All in favor, please say aye. Unopposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am.
I've learned the secret of your committee, and that is if you talk long enough and in a monotone, then you'll get a quick favorable report.
Always. Okay, House Bill 422, Unfair Real Estate Agreements Act, Senator Kyle Hall. Afternoon, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hopefully I'm not as long-winded as my colleague from Surrey County. The Unfair Real Estate Agreements Act, this is a consumer protection bill. What we have going on is in particular, is a Florida company that is coming to North Carolina and to other states, but North Carolina in particular. They're cold calling seniors and financially insecure people and offering them money for the right to sell their home. The amount given to those homeowners are anywhere between $300 and $5,000, and they then place a lien on the property, which states that that brokerage has the right to list that property for sale for the next 40 years. And this lien runs with the property and complicates the homeowner's ability to refinance, access home equity, or transfer the property. And so what this bill will do is it will ensure that these types of agreements are prohibited in North Carolina, and that a real estate agreement cannot exceed 1 year in duration. And this legislation is supported by the Realtor Association, Register of Deeds Association, North Carolina Bar, and the Real Estate Commission. I'd ask for your support.
Thank you, sir. Members of the committee, does anyone in the audience care to speak? Seeing none, we have a motion from Senator Todd Johnson for a favorable report on House Bill 422, Unfair Real Estate Agreements Act. All in favor, please say aye. And opposed, no. Motion carries. Who's running it on the floor?
Senator Proffitt.
Senator Crawford, okay. Okay, House Bill 813, Pretrial Integrity Act. Senator Brett. How are you, sir?
Thanks, sir. Mr. Chairman, members, I think we have a motion already.
That's all right. I'd like to hear about the bill.
Okay. House Bill 813 essentially says that folks that are out on pretrial release should have their bond reviewed by a judge before being released back out of custody. It says somebody will be held up to 48 hours if a judge is not available for that decision to be made. There was an amendment dealing with Chapter 20 offenses that we've worked on with Senator Muhammad and District Attorney over in Mecklenburg County and the Conference of DAs that'll possibly be made on the floor to deal with Chapter 20 offenses that people may be arrested for. This was something that came to us from many business owners in Charlotte, as well as a group of district attorneys and law enforcement officers.
Yeah.
Commend the bill to you.
Members of the committee, questions or comment? Senator Britt, you were right, there was a motion. Does anyone in the audience care to speak? Then if not, we have a motion from Senator Perry for a favorable report on House Bill 813, Pretrial Integrity Act. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, and thank everyone for coming, and those who assisted. We've concluded the agenda. Meeting is adjourned.